My dad's mistress came to my house and started doing reconstruction on it. So what did I do? I had to kick her out, and let me explain exactly what I mean. My dad's mistress was bossing me around in my house, thinking Dad owned it. Oh boy, it did not end well for her. It was hell. Some said that coming home during a long day was the best feeling you could ever feel, but not for me. The moment I came inside my 6-bedroom mansion, I immediately went to step out, but I was too tired to turn back. Scanning the place, my brows furrowed at the sight. The mansion is mine, but it felt like I entered a different world. Rather than a sense of comfort, I felt annoyance. My name's Elizabeth, I'm 25 years old and a female. And I used to live independently in this house I bought for myself, after working upon graduating from college. And yes, I used to live alone. But after my father, Mark, who's 57, and his mistress, Rebecca, moved in, I no longer have the freedom I used to enjoy. My father cheated on my mother, Katrina, who's 55, a few months ago. Maybe it was because of the endless screaming and fighting they continued to have when I was growing up. Or maybe it was because my father wanted a new woman in his life, who ended up being my mother's cousin. A week after my father and his mistress moved in, my father had to go to a business meeting out of town, which leaves me with my beloved aunt. I would say it was smooth sailing at first. We did not talk much nor get the chance to see each other often. I just get a glimpse of her whenever I get home from work and she's outside ordering the maids whatever she needs, even though she can do it herself. Or when I wake up in the morning and she's having her morning tea on the veranda by the pool. The first time Rebecca started bossing me around is still very vivid in my memory. It was a dreary Friday afternoon when I got home from work earlier than usual, and I caught her threatening to fire one of my maids, who has been with me ever since I was a little child. When I asked her the reason why she wanted the maid to be terminated, she said that it was because my maid did not want to put out the sunblock on her back. As she walked out of the pool area, she even ordered me to look for new helpers, as she could not stand to live with them, because she intended to stay in the home for an extended period of time. What a beep! A few days later, I came home from work feeling exhausted and having this great need for a breather by taking a dip in my pool. I pulled out my swimsuit and asked my helpers to assist me in bringing my briefcase back to the room, as it was a little heavy. But to tell the truth, I just did not have the strength to unpack, and would rather spend my time in the pool to relax. Feeling the breeze of cold water that hugged my figure felt as if all my problems went away. It was, however, ruined when I heard my dad's horrible mistress screaming at the top of her lungs, and asking the helpers, who let me inside my own house and swim in her pool. I was so pissed that I wanted to pull the owner of the voice to the pool in order to make her shut up. But I tried my best to calm down, and still have some respect for her by just mumbling under my breath instead of lashing out, as she was still my mother's cousin and my aunt. Rebecca, on the other hand, still continued screaming when she noticed me mumbling, and even ordered me to speak only when I'm spoken to. But up until that point, I should shut up. My maids started to swarm around the pool, and I could only look at them with helpless eyes. I decided to get out of the pool to avoid any conflict that may arise between us, and told the helpers that I will instead be heading inside. As I dried myself off, I heard Rebecca call me a lazy and sheltered beep. That I was the reason why my parents broke up, and why my father looked for another woman in his life. I just stared at my dad's mistress after hearing what she just said, and headed back inside my room. Once I reached my room, I felt so sick to my stomach, and I could not imagine how she could be that cruel to her own niece. Once I was inside the room, I wanted to talk to my mother, but I decided to just let everything cool down for once and not let her be involved in the conflict I had with Rebecca. I thought that she was just stressed out with adjusting to her new home. But of course, I still wondered if I made the right decision in letting them stay here. At this point, I fell asleep wishing that she was still the person I knew when I was a young girl, and that I should give her a chance. The following day, I was awakened by a loud noise that was coming from the living room. I got up to check my phone, only to find out that my mother called me 5 times, because I had to leave for work that day, and I was unattended for approximately an hour. I decided to call my mother back instead of checking the commotion outside. She answered the phone and asked me what time I slept and why I was not answering. Instead of arguing with her, I just made an excuse and headed to the bathroom to prepare for the day. While in the bathroom, I heard some parts of the ceiling crack and some debris falling. My room is situated on the first floor. I thought it was an earthquake, so I screamed to ask the people in the house what's happening. The drilling suddenly stopped, so I decided to quickly finish my bath. I was about to leave the house when I realized that I've not had any breakfast yet, so I decided to go back inside. To my surprise, I saw about 10 construction workers walking downstairs with their heavy mechanical type equipment, as if they were having some serious work done upstairs. I do not remember making a call to a construction company or needing repairs or work done, so I just looked at them blankly while pondering what they were up to. When I finally gained the courage to ask, I asked the guy closest to where I was. He told me that a woman named Rebecca called them up for a renovation for the second floor. I was taken aback and suddenly went to the kitchen where Rebecca was. I tried asking Rebecca if we could go to my room and talk about this, but she did not want to talk to me, and even said she was too busy to deal with me. I tried convincing her, but she went and talked to the construction guys. I was so pissed that I decided to call my father, who was too busy to even talk to me. I was left with no other choice but to put Rebecca to the side of the house and talk to her. I first asked her why she wanted renovations in the first place. Why did she need renovations in her room? But she told me that it was my father's decision, so she could be more comfortable in the house. I was taken aback at what she said because they did not even try to consult with me as the owner of the house. But as soon as I heard that my dad was involved in this, I decided to let it go and let her do what she wants, as it was only a small renovation. Letting her get the upper hand in this certain situation was probably one of the biggest regrets and worst decisions I've ever made in my life. In addition to letting them live with me because she only got worse in the following days. One time while I was going downstairs to eat breakfast, I heard Rebecca getting mad at every single helper. When I got near them, I asked her what was happening, and she only blamed me for not firing my helpers when she told me to, because she said she felt like they always hated her and would intentionally mess up her orders. Of course, I did not believe her because aside from knowing that Rebecca was just being her usual jerk self, I've known my helpers since then and they were just trying to protect me. I just told her that I could not do anything she asked me to because it's not in any way my guardian and that she has to live with my helpers because it's my house. She then answered me and said that without my father, I would not even be able to afford any of this luxury. I did not answer her and just decided to call my father so he could speak to her, but to no avail. My own father did not believe me and even said that I should be the one to adjust her. On the same day I went to work after talking to my father, Rebecca should thank all the gods that were on her side that day that I did not have the time nor energy to deal with her. Because first, I did not want to be late for my presentation, and second, I did not want to disappoint my own father, who was already mad at me for keeping his mistress in check. My day at work actually went well, thank goodness, so I decided to return home earlier than usual to have a dip in the pool. Because the last time I attempted to do so, my evil stepmother stopped me. When I got home, I was welcomed by one of my helpers, Jessica, who's 45, who told me that Rebecca organized a full swing house party for her friends. I was so surprised that I immediately entered the gate and looked at the lavish decorations from the garden to the pool. To say that I was in complete disbelief was an understatement that I decided to call my own mother, who I did not want to bother. I told my mother how annoyed I was at the fact that Rebecca threw a party at my house without even asking what I feel about it. She wanted to call my father and go to the house to confront Rebecca, but I realized that I was too old to be complaining to my mother, and I should actually do something to remind her that this house will never be hers. When the call ended, I went straight to where I assumed Rebecca was, her newly constructed and furnished room. But while I was going upstairs, I ran into one of I assume, my aunt's acquaintances, as she went to full stop when she saw me. She complimented how nice I was for going to such lengths for my father's own mistress, and that every daughter should be like me. I honestly had no idea what she was talking about, so I just stared at her with my mouth wide open. She looked at me weirdly because I appeared to be unaware of what's happening. She then said that Rebecca, my dearest aunt, invited them to a party because my father was finally giving her the title for her new home. Yeah, my home. And that Rebecca brought each of the guests upstairs to leave without at least one piece of jewelry or clothing as a welcoming present, all of which are mine. I was so angry that I was at a loss for words. I immediately ran upstairs, completely ignoring the woman that practically helped me. When I reached the room upstairs, I saw like 10 other people waiting outside the room, like children waiting in line for cafeteria food. Which was funny at the same time, weird sight to witness. I immediately ran to the door and, to the dismay of the people in the line, and loudly knocked on the door. I was then welcomed by the horrible Rebecca, who stopped me from entering the room and covered my mouth, pulled me downstairs where there was no one around except for the helpers. I tried my best to pull away from the grip, but she seemed to be extra strong on that certain day. Rebecca, on the other hand, said that I should stop restraining and resisting, and that she's actually doing us both a favor by taking our fight away for the public's eye, and not making a scene in front of everyone. Right after she said that my blood started to boil, and I told her she has no right to dictate anything to me, as she is just my father's mistress, and that the house she was sleeping in is actually mine. I said that she should be thankful I even let her live inside my house, when she was the reason my father had to leave my mother. In addition to this, I also said that I regret my decision and that she should pack up and leave the house on the same night, or else I will be the one to throw her things out. I just kept on releasing all the emotions I've kept in an attempt to understand her side and not disappoint my father. But at that point in my life, I just exploded. She did not answer me and just went straight to her room. A few minutes after, I saw her coming down with a piece of huge luggage and went straight through the door. The last thing she said was that I should prepare for my father's wrath. I slept with a heavy heart that night. Letting my father's mistress leave was probably one of the most heart-wrenching decisions I've ever made, because she was also my aunt who used to coddle me and give me a lot of gifts, but also realized that what she's doing to me in my own home was enough to justify why I kicked her out. I was awakened by a phone call from my father the next day. He welcomed me with an angry voice, telling me that I should not have kicked out Rebecca, and that I should have consulted with him first when I was having issues. It's funny because when I called him to discuss the renovations that were done by Rebecca, I did not answer him and just chuckled sarcastically. He then proceeded to say how angry he was with me and that I should have never let them in my home in the first place. I decided to just end the call instead of answering him back, because aside from the fact that I did not want to be disrespectful to my own father, I was getting too tired to hear him or fight for Rebecca when he could have not even done the same for me. In the following days, I continued to receive a lot of text messages from him, apologizing for speaking to me the way he did, and renegotiating their stay at my place by making the commitment to double all the things her mistress had taken from me, in addition to returning them, which I responded through blocking him entirely. My mother also decided to live with me for a little bit, just to check on the house and make sure that whatever my father attempts to visit, she would be there to stop him and let things cool down for a short while. As when I blocked my own father, he visits me and begged me to let them stay there again. I said that I loved him and respect him as he is my father, and that will never change. But after everything that's happened, I just cannot let myself and my mother go through all the stress ever since she stepped into our lives. I also said that I was already at the right age to make my own decisions, and that I should not be influenced by anyone, even my own parents. I left him there and just locked myself in my room. In the next weeks, I kept on hearing news about my father and his mistress through our family. Some said that my father asked them for help to search for a place to stay, as he was still recovering from a financial slump. He could not afford to stay in the hotel any longer nor construct a new home. It did not help that Rebecca did not do anything except wallow in self-pity and want my father by her side all the time. My family members even told me that Rebecca was slowly revealing her true colors, day by day that they were together, as my father saw her navigating through a dating app in hopes to find a guy with better financial situation. After a week of staying together in a hotel, my father decided to finally put his relationship with his mistress to an end, as he could no longer take her foolishness. Rebecca decided to stay one more week in a hotel, but due to her inability to pay, she was forced to leave and is now practically homeless. After their breakup, my father immediately sent me and my mom a long message, telling us about the news and apologizing for all his mistakes. He said that he realized how he actually loved my mother, but would understand we would not like to be around him anymore. My mother and I decided to not message him back as it would only give him false hope. Although I am happy that my father finally saw Rebecca's true colors, I hope that he finds someone who he can actually be with, no matter what the circumstances, and that he recovers from this financial slump. Yes, it will definitely take some time to forgive him, but I highly believe that time will heal the wounds. As for Rebecca, I don't think I will ever have the heart to forgive her. What she did was so horrible. I don't blame Elizabeth at all for everything she did. I do think that maybe her and her father can have a relationship later on, but I am so glad she kicked that vile mistress to the curb. Guys, let me know what you think about this story in the comment section down below. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to it, and also check out my Instagram, which I'll pop on screen right here. And also, smash that like button. It really helps support the channel a lot. We still have one more final story in today's video. It's an Am I the A-hole story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister, of course my wife will wear her ring at her wedding? Here's exactly what went down. My 25-year-old male and wife, 25-year-old female, and I recently eloped. Neither of us wanted attention or the expense of a big wedding, so we did our own little vacation where we got married. We did not tell our families beforehand, and because we knew they would freak out. They weren't thrilled to have missed it, but they accepted it and haven't given us a hard time since the initial shock. My sister Kate, who's 27, on the other hand, has been planning a wedding for over a year. She and her fiancé dated 8 years before getting engaged, so to say she's been waiting for this day a long time is a bit of an understatement. Her wedding is in 2 weeks, and she's been slightly Bridezilla-esque in the last stages of planning. On Sunday, I was at my parents' house with her, and my wife was not present. Kate expressed that she was mad at me for getting married so close to her wedding, when I knew that this was a big deal to her. She said I was unfairly taking attention away from her. I told her that no, this was always our plan and the timing had nothing to do with it, and we could go on a certain trip that we took off from work. It had nothing to do with their wedding. She then said that since it's so close and not everyone in our family knows about my marriage yet, we should not tell anyone and not have my wife wear a ring. I told her she's absolutely ridiculous to think that my wife, a newlywed, is not going to be wearing her wedding ring because a bride is jealous. I didn't even relay this request to my wife because it seemed so ridiculous. Kate freaked out, and I found out she texted my wife yesterday, very passively aggressive, saying it would be selfish of her to wear it at the wedding in 2 weeks. My wife hasn't responded and agrees with me that this is ridiculous, but also doesn't want to ruffle feathers either. She's pretty non-confrontational, but now my parents are involved, saying they agree Kate's request is dumb, but they kind of want to keep the peace. Skipping the wedding isn't being discussed before any suggests that, and Kate hasn't uninvited us or anything like that either. I'm a groomsman and our parents are paying, so she can't really do that anyways. But it's causing some annoying tension. I just need to know, am I being unreasonable here? By the way, neither my wife or I have social media. I'm not planning to make any announcement. I'm just saying my wife will be wearing her ring, and we aren't going to pretend we're not married. My extended family's not close, and they're basically strangers to me. And my sister's friends are more just friendly acquaintances. Some that I used to play sports with. None of them are people I would consider friends or would invite to my own wedding if I were to have the traditional type. People asking why we did not wait and get married. It's tough to align our time off, and we wanted to purchase a house together, but not before marriage. Interest rates in the US are rising and are expecting to rise more throughout the next year. Establishing our lives together was our priority. We're not thinking about someone else's wedding because we don't think that the guests will even care. It's obviously Kate and her fiancé's day, and we don't think any of the attention will be on us. Okay, so here's the update. If anyone cares, future brother-in-law called me last night saying that Kate was embarrassed for how she was acting. He agrees with me that our recent marriage won't be a major topic of discussion, and said of course my wife can wear her ring. We don't have to act like we aren't married. My dad made a point to say he won't shine the spotlight on us during his father of the bride speech, and we're not expecting others to make note in it to their toast either. We're all good here. That's such a strange request that Kate's trying to make. I understand it's her special day, but there's probably hundreds of people there that will be wearing a wedding ring. I don't know, but at least at the end we had a positive update and it seems everything's going swimmingly, and Kate does feel sorry about the way she acted. That's all the content I have for you guys today. I love reading your stories and sharing your opinions. It's one of my favorite things to do is read all your comments. So share away, and guess what? We'll be back tomorrow with even more stories. Have a wonderful night, guys.